Yeah, we
Huh?
sold all the red. The bed and breakfast.
Really? 5 year?
That'd be kind of to see it up, I guess.
Do some trolling.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
That's the problem with them warranties. Nah.
Send who?
The other entrance, because you gotta look, you get more visibility.
They're Missourians, I guess.
Send them Skittles. Gel lot the shit.
Okay, are we ready?
Is the garden good and shit?
Apparently somebody's ready. Burning. Marks.
The light is on. I see the light. Okay, let's call the meeting to order, please.
Regular meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, Monday, August 3rd, 2020, 7:05 p.m. Heidrich, Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Obermark.
Here.
Patke. Pettit. Scornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup.
Here.
Wessels.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the council members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the council meeting dated July 20, 2020? Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Obermark?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Sullentrup?
Yes.
Wessels?
Aye.
Okay, having read the minutes, are there any comments or questions, any corrections?
Not, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Heidrich, seconded by Sullentrup, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated July 20, 2020. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
Approval and adjustment of agenda, including consent agenda. You have the City Collector's Report Summary for April 2020, City Investment Report Summary, April 2020, Liquor License Renewals, Final Pay Request, Outdoor Warning Consulting LLC for the Sirens, Final Pay Request, Variant Audio Log Recorder from Buzzcom, and Change Orders 1 and 2 for Westport Pools Municipal Pool Complex.
Okay, are there any questions about any of those items? The D through F, we just talked about at our previous meeting.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Heidrich, to approve the items on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the items. Thank you.
Priority items, mayor's presentations, appointments, and reappointments. Washington Area Highway Transportation Committee reappointments.
Okay, this evening, in your packet, we have two reappointments to the Washington Area Highway Transportation Committee. Both of those terms will be expiring in July of 2023. That would be Bill Strotman, who's currently the chairman of the committee, and William L. Miller, who's also been a long-term member of the committee. So, any questions or comments?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Obermark, to approve the reappointments of Bill Strotman and William L. Miller to the Washington Area Highway Transportation Committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve those reappointments. Thank you.
Washington Tax Increment Financing Commission reappointments.
Okay, we also have two reappointments to the TIF Commission, and that would be Robert Bob Dobsch and Liz Stemley. And both of those terms expire in August of 2024.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Heidrich, seconded by Holtmeyer, to approve the reappointments of Robert Bob Dobsch and Liz Stemley to the Washington Tax Increment Financing Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the reappointments. Thank you.
Police Department reappointment.
We have a reappointment this time of Eric Dobelman. This is his first 1 year.
His first year, but he served 11 prior years.
Yeah. So, he just had a hiatus.
Yes. And he is serving with distinction, so I would request you reappoint him, council.
Okay. So, any questions or comments?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Hydridge, seconded by Sullentrup, to approve the reappointment of Eric Dobelman as a patrol officer to the Washington Police Department for a one-year term. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the reappointment. Thank you.
council.
Citizens' comments?
Is there anyone here?
Report of department heads?
We
Nothing.
already did that.
Ordinances?
Mark-
Oh,
well,
Mark?
Carney's good.
okay.
Good evening, council members. Councilman Scarnia emailed me and requested a little information on states that had face mask policies and those that don't. Probably the report that's gotten the most traction was one that appeared via the Philadelphia Inquirer and was picked up by Channel 4, which is CBS, the CBS network. So you may have seen some graphics on it on the CBS network. And essentially what it is, it's a study that used sources by the National Governors Association and the Old Gray Lady, New York Times. And it compared 16 states that recommended but do not require versus 11 states that mandate. In this study, the 16 states that recommended but did not require, their rate had risen 84%. And this study was done in in June. And the states, the 11 states that mandate wearing a mask in public, their new cases had fallen by the rate of about 25% over 2 weeks. And then there were some slight variations. So some states just required employees and patrons of certain businesses. So if the businesses required it, they saw a drop of about 12%. And those that required employees of certain businesses, that rose 70% who did not have that. So yeah, there is some variation there. I looked at a couple other studies. One was some professors at the University of Iowa. They did like a 3-week study, and theirs saw a 2% decrease for the population they studied. The interesting part about that one was they used marked dates, like they went out like 3, 6, 9, 12. You know, they went marked dates, and on their study, every day, you know, it went down. It wasn't like you see with new cases, you know, where it goes up and down and up and down. That study showed there was a marked decrease at every time period that they used. So that's just a little information on that. Anyone have any questions? And then one other question last time, I believe Councilman Wessels, or maybe it was Councilman Sullentrup, I can't remember exactly, wanted to know which other studies or which other cities in Missouri do have mask ordinances. And so far what I've been able to find, Branson, Clay County, Missouri, Columbia, Jackson County, Kansas City area there, Joplin, Kansas City, North Kansas City, Springfield, St. Louis, and Cape Girardeau did it recently. And I guess out of those, the only one that is smaller than us would be the Clay County, because I think Clay County is the Warrensburg area. So,
It's north of Kansas City.
okay.
So they would be smaller than Washington?
There was
or-
one, yeah, there was one of these that was smaller, you know, that had mask ordinance. Most of the other municipalities that do have it are larger.
Or larger
Washington.
cities?
So in answer to that question.
Mark, I would ask you, not for tonight, but we've got this, I'm sure we're gonna have a big discussion on this in a couple of weeks.
Yes?
If you, part of what I would hope we would include in our discussion is if we do mandate, how will we know when to back off?
Yeah.
So some sort of exit criteria, I would ask if you could research that for us, and maybe at that time, I think that's important for people to know that if we do it, it's not forever, and this is how we'll know when we can back off.
So we can see the goalpost.
There you go.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, I can research that.
Have most people put it in effect for like 60 days, 90 days, or have some of them been doing?
Most of them are straightforward that I've seen. They don't include an end date.
I think the one in Columbia, I got a copy of it the other day, and it was October 8th.
Okay.
It did, you're right.
Like, some of the other ones I've looked at do not, it's just whenever they determine. And I think part of the reason is there's no CDC guidance, there's really, no, if you will, official agency, has come out and said, this is the point at which we're gonna, which it's okay to relax it.
Well, and it's an unknown at this point.
True, but I'll do some research, be happy to.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, while Mark has brought this up, I might as well bring up something. I received a phone call last week one day from a resident, and the question was, we're talking about doing an ordinance, and an ordinance would, we would have to enforce it, it would, connect it to fines and, that type of stuff. And he asked the question of, why we didn't consider like a resolution type document as opposed to an ordinance. Like a resolution, tonight we are going to have a resolution that we all are in agreement that we should apply for the grant that, the MoDOT grant or something like that. And you know what, I quite honestly said, well, I don't know. I mean, it hadn't crossed my mind as the difference between an ordinance and a resolution. I called Darren. A resolution is something that a body votes on and is in agreement that everybody should be doing this, but you wouldn't have an enforcement issue. Apparently, it's kind of how we figured out the difference would be where, because I know, Chief, you at one point were a little concerned about enforcement and things like that. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. I called Darren the next day and said, somebody called me yesterday and said this, we need to figure out what the difference is. I should know the difference, I guess, but anyway, what the difference is between the two. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there for a little bit of discussion since you're talking about it.
A resolution wouldn't be a mandate, would it?
No. It does not have the force of law. It's more of a sense of the council. It's kind of an opinion of the council that, this is or is not a good thing, where an ordinance is law and can be enforced.
So we could write up a resolution saying that we think that people should wear masks when they're out in public or not social distancing, and that's not mandating it.
Correct.
There is, I guess, Mayor brought it to my attention, I guess, that there's a community, I don't know if St. Charles, if the city or the county or something, they looked at something similar to this, or maybe they've passed it recently. I did not have a chance. She just brought up that community today. I was going to ask you, Mark, if you knew of any other communities done a resolution.
Like St. Charles, I'm trying to remember, St. Charles City, I think I saw I saw some on TV news where, I think it was St. Charles City, where, it was bouncing back and forth where some of the restaurants, et cetera, were wanting someone else to
do it.
Right.
do
Right.
it for them. They
Correct.
didn't want to put the sign up in their restaurant saying, or their bar.
Rather have the city go ahead and be
Rather
the,
have the city do it. I
Right.
think it was St. Charles City, but
but we'll look into that.
We'll look
with
into
regards
that.
as an option too, if that's something that the council would want, but we'll research that and be able to get back with you.
Right, I just thought I'd bring it, this was a time to bring it up about, the difference between the two.
It
And,
still gives an individual or a business the opportunity to do, if they want, what they want. And
Right.
we wouldn't have to force it on them.
That would,
It's a good idea, and I appreciate you looking into it.
well, thank the person who called me. I can't take credit
Well,
for it.
thank you very much.
Random caller.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Ordinances, and resolutions. An ordinance of the City of Washington, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interests for certain municipal officials.
Salandrup.
Yes, this is something we pass every year.
Annual.
Annual conflict of interest. Any questions?
An ordinance of the City of Washington, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interests for certain municipal officials. Heidrich?
Aye.
Obermark?
Aye.
Skornia?
Yes.
Sulentrop?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Wessels?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and In Situ Farm Technologies USA LLC for the Storm Sewer CIPP Project 2020.
Heidrich.
Introduced by Councilman Heidrich. This is the,
Yep, we discussed this at the previous meeting. With your approval, we will get to doing some repairs and enhancements to our sewer system.
Did you say it was up to a mile? You're going to try to get done?
We identified 5,515 feet that has not been slip lined. Kevin started his due diligence on that, so we go in and we camera the lines as well, just to make sure if there's offsets in the pieces of pipe, you can't slip line it. You have to open cut it. So Kevin's in the midst of doing that, you know, started Friday essentially. So there will be some areas that I identified to get done that may not be able to get slip lined. And then we'll just just go to a different location around town and get caught back up. So right now, what we have budgeted, what this is for 5,515 feet as a quantity, which is a substantial amount.
Have you heard anything on same process being able to do with water lines?
Yes,
You know, that would be something to look into also, because we have a lot of water main breaks.
you can do this with water lines as well, yes.
John,
We've got lime. We've got lime.
do they usually do this in like 300-foot segments?
Whatever the manhole to manhole.
Manhole, don't they
Yep.
usually like 300 feet?
Yep. Water lines is a little bit different because they're a little shallower. Sewer lines are deeper. Water lines are a little bit easier, just open, cut, and move forth. But that kind of goes into the whole water rate discussion, because what we'd like to do is start replacing water lines underneath streets that are getting paved. That's part of what that extra money would go to. Sorry, didn't mean to. But yeah, you do it in manhole-to-manhole shots.
Smaller machines.
boy, how thick is that? Because when
It's, it varies in sizes,
yeah,
just depending on how big your line is. I mean, we did a 48-inch pipe underneath of High Street last year. So I mean, that's a pretty 4-foot pipe. It was a storm sewer. Rather than cut the street, open up, close down High Street for a week or two, we just slip lined it. Now, it is more costly, but you also got to weigh out the benefits of having the street closed when high school's in session and, I mean, you name it.
No settlement in this either.
Nope. Nope, you just replace it from the inside out.
okay. Did we vote on that?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and In Situ Farm Technologies USA LLC for the Storm Sewer CIPP Project 2020. Heidrich? Obermark?
Aye.
Skornia?
Yes.
Sulentrop? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Wessels?
Aye.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission.
Oatmore.
Introduced by Councilman Holdmeyer.
So I hit on this at the last meeting as well. CARES Act essentially gave money to MoDOT to distribute to the municipal airports in the sum of $30,000. This will allow us to get that done. It's essentially a grant, 100% given to us. We then will turn around and split the cost for a capital improvement project and operations.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. Heidrich. Obermark. Skornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup. Holtzmeyer. Wessels.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an aviation consultant agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Coffey, Murphy and Tilley, Inc.
Zoltrop.
Introduced by Councilman Sullentrup.
I explained this at the last meeting as well, but this is the consultant contract to get our hangars under design, 12-bay hangars.
Okay, any questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an aviation consultant agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and Crawford, Murphy and Tilley, Inc. Heidrich. Obermark. Skornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup. Holtzmeyer. Wessels.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and NB West Contracting Company for the 2020 Rotary Riverfront Trail paving project and amend the 2020 budget.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
Again, I explained this at the last meeting, but this is the next critical path item to get the trail reopened. Again, it's got a 10-day completion time once we give the notice to proceed, which will not occur until the city completes their rock work, which is ongoing. All hands on deck.
Weather permitting.
Weather permitting, and 3 inches of rain on a Friday does not help that. So.
Any other questions?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri and NB West Contracting Company for the 2020 Rotary Riverfront Trail paving project and amend the 2020 budget. Heidrich. Obermark. Skornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup. Holtzmeyer. Wessels.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an assignment of lease agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, Washington Historical Society, Inc., and Historic Washington Foundation, Inc.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer.
This was brought to the city's attention by Downtown Washington. I think what this was originally, it was to the Washington Historical Society. They wanted to make sure that it was clearly stated that it was Historic Washington Foundation. And so we said we would go ahead and draft the ordinance. No change in how operations or anything else is going. It's just a change in the language. Correct, Mark?
Correct.
Okay, any questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an assignment of lease agreement by and between the City of Washington, Missouri, Washington Historical Society, Inc., and Historic Washington Foundation, Inc. Heidrich. Obermark. Skornia.
Yes.
Sullentrup. Holtzmeyer. Wessels.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington to accept the proposal from Cornerstone Contracting Company for brick ceiling and masonry repairs for Fire Department Headquarters, Station Number 3 and Station Number 4.
Zoltrop.
Introduced by Councilman Sullentrup.
This was brought up at the workshop or whatever. You see the 3 bids attached for the brick ceiling. Chief recommended going with the low bidder Cornerstone Contract.
Darren, this is one of them I was curious about. Was this being covered in their current budget?
Yes, well, actually, a good question. They did not have a specific line item for this type of repair work, but they have it in another line item within their budget. They did not require a budget amendment because to move those funds from one line item to the other, Mary or myself can go ahead and give authorization, but to award the contract, you guys needed to go ahead and do that.
Thank you.
There are money, the money is there. Short answer.
Anything else?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the City of Washington to accept the proposal from Cornerstone Contracting Company for brick ceiling and masonry repairs for Fire Department Headquarters, Station Number 3 and Station Number 4. Heidrich?
Aye.
Obermark?
Aye.
Scornia?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Wessels?
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
A resolution authorizing the City of Washington to apply for funding through the East-West Gateway Council of Governments to provide for the Front Street ADA Improvements Project in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Sullentrup.
Okay, so introduced by Sullentrup. This is a resolution, so we'll need a
Oh,
second.
excuse me.
No, I just said we'll need a second. So we have a.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Holtmeyer to approve the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the resolution. I thought you'd be proud of me for noticing that. So.
Mayor's report.
I did want to mention this evening that, a couple of months ago, I guess it's been, we talked about forming a community relations board. It's kind of what we're calling it right now. It was for about a board that would look at diversity and inclusion within our city. And we had put an item, an email address out.
Correct.
Because we've had quite a few people who were inquiring. And so we've got a nice group now that is interested. And they'll be having their first meeting this coming Thursday morning at 9 o'clock.
It's just with.
And it's just with.
Yeah, it's just
the-
with staff and the
with
mayor.
staff and to look at the list and to see, but we had a nice turnout of those who were interested. So this was just a small meeting to review that list. Anyway, so moving forward. So. And that's all I have under mayor's report.
City Administrator's report.
No report.
Oh, my.
Council comments.
Council comments?
I'd just like to welcome, I guess it's a new person from the Missourian.
She's not new, she's just new to the council meetings. You
Okay.
tell him, Kristen, that's okay.
I've never seen her before.
What else, you've covered parks and what else?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I cover the Parks Department, and then I do the Library Board, and then the School District of Washington, the Union School District, and then ECC as well.
And she loves Washington.
Yeah,
So will you be here from now on?
maybe.
Depends on how good a job she does.
I didn't know if you were filling in for Aaron just for the night, or?
So as of right now, yeah, I'm just filling in tonight.
Okay.
Any other council comments?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, we have a motion. Were you going to say something, Nick? or-
I was going to say second. Mark.
Okay, motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Heidrich to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, we are adjourned. Thank you all.